Okay, so it says find the coordinates of the midpoint of the segment whose endpoints are at H and K. Okay, midpoint. What do we do? What do you do with the X's? Add them? Yeah, on the midpoint formula, we add them and then divide by 2. Okay, I know the midpoint point is weird because you actually have to add. So we're going to take our 2 X's, so 9 and 5, and divide by 2, and that's going to give us our X coordinates. So 9 plus 5, 14, divide by 2, so it's 7. Okay, so, and I'm going to call the midpoint M. So 7 is our X coordinate. And then now we do the same thing with the Y's. Add them, divide by 2. So 2 plus 14, divide by 2. So 2 and 14 is 16, divide by 2. So 8. So your midpoint would be at 7, 8. Easy? All right. Ready? And again, y'all, this review is basically the test. So if you can do this, you can do the test, okay? Tomorrow. All right, number 3. It says find the distance. Find the distance between these 2 points. Remember, guys, the distance formula, let's write it down. Big square root. Now this is where we subtract x2 minus x1, that gets squared. y2 minus y1, that gets squared. Okay, so now we just have to label our 2 points. When you're just finding plain distance, it doesn't matter which one is 0.1 and which one is 0.2, okay? So I'm just going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, okay? Plug in. So my x2 is 1 minus my x1, which is 8. That gets squared. Now the y is 9 minus 5. Again, make sure all of that is underneath the square root. Yeah. You should get 8.06, which is going to round to 8.1. Yes, very good. Okay, 8.1, very good. Just make sure that everything gets underneath the square root. Okay, number 5. It says the endpoints of J and K, or segment JK, are J at that one and K at the other one. What are the coordinates of the following points on JK? So they want to know where point W is, which is 1/4 of the distance from J to K. So we're starting at J, and we're going to K. So the one you're starting from, that's your x1, y1. And where you're going to, that's your x2, y2. And then remember, we got to do that formula. The new x coordinate is x1 plus, and then you have the fraction times, and then x2 minus x1. So x1 plus fraction times x2 minus x1. And then the same thing for the y. The new y coordinate is y1 plus fraction times y2 minus y1. So now we'll just do the formulas. So the new one's going to be point W.
It's basically the same as this.
A little bit. Okay? So we're just following the formula, okay? All right. So I'm going to call it X, and then what's my new point called? W. So I'm doing it the X for W, yes. X sub W. So what is my X1? -2. plus, and then we do 1/4 times, and then we do x2, which is 4, minus -2. So yes, when you enter it in, you're going to get a fraction, right? What do we get? -1/2, -1/2. And that's okay. All right, that's all right. Yes. Okay. All right, now let's do the y. Okay, so the y is -5, so that's y1 plus, and then we do fraction, so 1/4 times, and then y2, which is 11, minus y1, which is -5. Okay, so if you enter that in, yeah, and you're only entering the numbers part, okay? Don't try to do y whatever equals. Just type in the numbers, and you get -1. So where is point W at? -1/2, -1. Perfect. There we go. Pretty easy so far, yeah? Okay. Now it's just formulas. Same formulas over and over. And we're writing them down too, so you have them there. They're also in your notes. Everybody ready? The next problem. Good? All right, so number 7 now. It says, is triangle TVS scalene, isosceles, or equilateral? So what does scalene mean? None of the sides are the same, right? Okay, what does isosceles mean? 2 are the same, okay? And then equilateral? All of them, very good. So we just gotta plot these points, and then we gotta find the lengths of the sides. Now let me give you a warning, okay? Y'all see these graphs, yes? What are they counting by? By 2, okay? Now on the test, we were nice and we put the graphs to count by 1s, okay? So on the academic test, they're counting by 1s. So we're gonna have a little bit of, I don't wanna say a tough time, but you have to pay a little bit more attention, right? On the counting on here, because you see like T is at 1, 1, yes? It's not gonna be on a perfect grid line, okay? So we're gonna work through it together. So point T is at 1, 1, so I'm going over halfway and then up halfway, because the box is counting 2, right? So 1, 1. V is at 4, 0, so it's just 4 here in the x direction. And then S is at 2, 4. So it's T, V, and S. Okay, and now we find the lengths of those sides. Okay, guys, you can use, whenever you're trying to find the length of the sides, you can use either the distance formula or you can use the little triangle counting method, okay? I'm going to do one with the distance formula so we can see it worked out, and then I'm going to do the other 2 with the triangle counting, okay? Ready? So the first side I'm going to do is TS. And so I'm going to call T my x1, y1, and S my x2, y2. And I'm going to do the distance formula. So x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 1, squared, plus, and then now y2, so 4, minus 1, squared.
Right in front of the equal, is that it?
It's an S.
What's the thing before that?
TS. Yeah, TS. Oh, okay, well, it's an S.
You gave him a flat head.
So we get 3 point what? 3.16, which is 3.2, right? Okay. So very good. So TS is 3.2. All right. Now let's go and we will do, yeah, okay, let's do SV. Okay, now SV, I'm not going to do the distance formula. I'll do the triangle counting. And this one's going to be easy, right? Okay, so from S to V, look, We go over one whole block, but what's the block worth? 2. So this is 2. And then we go down 2 blocks, so that's good. 4. So 2 squared and 4 squared. Okay, so 2 squared and 4 squared. Yeah, right, 4.5. Okay, 4.5. And then we'll do the last one, VT. Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky with the counting, but it's not that bad. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna think about the x coordinates and then I'm gonna think about the y's, okay? V, the x coordinate is 4, yes? And t, the x coordinate is 1. So from 4 to 1, what's that distance? 3. So we go over 1, 2, and then half, so that's 3. And then v, the y coordinates, v is at 0 and t is at 1, so we're just going up 1. So we do 1 squared and 3 squared. Right? So it's 3.2. So what kind of triangle do we have, y'all? Isosceles. And let's put the reason down. Yep. So 2 congruent sides. Very good. So in case if they ask you to explain, right? So 2 sides were congruent.
You know that weird thing that means and?
Mm-hmm.
What's that called?
Ampersand.
Just call it. I call it.
Okay, are we ready, guys?
Call it disfigured.
Okay, number 9. These 2 problems are the longest ones, okay? I know. So get ready. But then after this, the other ones are much faster, okay? It says the vertices of quadrilateral ABCD are at those points. And it says, what is the most precise classification? So let's plot them. So A is at 0, -1. So right here. So there's A. B is at -2, 5. C is at 1, 6. And then D is at 3, 0. So there's our 4 points. And so now we're going to go through and we're going to find the lengths of the 4 sides. And then the lengths of the 2 diagonals. Okay? So lengths of the 4 sides. And you can do the triangle counting on here. And as long as you write down those equations, the formulas, okay, to show the calculations of the lengths, that will be good for your evidence. Okay, you got to show those. So BA. Now, how far down do we have to go from B to get to where A is? Right, 6, because B is up here at 5. So I go down 1, and then 2 more, so that's 3, 4, 5, and then A is at -1, so 1 more, so 6. So we go down 6, and then to go from B over to A, we go over 2, right? Because it's 1 block. Again, this is counting by 2s. Because B is at -2 and A is at 0 for the x coordinates, right? So BA (6 squared and 2 squared). To get 6 point something. 6.3. Okay, so that's BA. Now, y'all, what side matches up with BA? CD. So let's find that one, okay? CD. Okay, so yeah, C is at 1 and D is at 3. So how far is it from 1 to 3? It's 2.
You had to subtract.
So we go over 2, and then now look at the y's. C is at 6, D is at 0, so that's down 6. So we end up with the same numbers. 2 squared and 6 squared. So it's 6.3. Okay, so that's one pair of opposite sides and they're equal, right? So that's good. Now let's do the top and the bottom. And let's see if they're equal to each other. So BC. Okay, BC. So from B to C, think about the y's. B is at 5, C is at 6. So how far up do you have to go? Just 1. And then we go, oh, careful. Yeah, we go over the whole block, 2 plus half a block, so 3. So go up 1 over 3. So 1 squared and 3 squared. So it's the square root of 10, so 3.2. And then now let's do AD. Again, A is at -1, D is at 0, like for y's. So we're going to go up 1. And then the x coordinates, A is at 0, D is at 3. So we're going over 3 and then up 1. So it's the same thing. Okay. And again, if the counting, like especially because on the pre-AP test, the graphs count by 2. So y'all, if you are getting confused on the triangles, or maybe the triangles doesn't suit you, what can you use to find the lengths? The distance formula, okay? So we did the 4 sides. Okay, what do we notice about our sides? Yeah, both pair of opposite sides are congruent, right? So what does that allow it to be? Or a parallelogram, right? If all of the sides were the same, then it could be a rhombus or a square, but since we only have like the 2 pairs opposite sides that are the same, it has to be parallelogram or rectangle. So now the tiebreaker is going to be the diagonals. Okay, tiebreaker is going to be the diagonals. So I'm going to switch my color here for a second. And y'all, do you see how we've written down those calculations? Yes? If you have those written down, you can erase some of the little drawing here to make your picture a little bit cleaner, okay? But only if you have those down. If you don't have those written down and you erase this stuff, I can't help you, right? With points.
I'll put the dog tag on it. See, it's a dog.
All right, so diagonals. So I'm going to labeling an A, B, C, D. Okay, my first diagonal from B to D. I've got to go down and then over to the right, yes? Okay, how far down do I have to go? B is up at what? What's the y value for B? 5. And then the y value for D is 0. So I have to go down 5, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went down 5. And then now, again, B is at -2. D is at +3 for their x's. So I have to go over 5. So down 5, over 5. So BD. Five squared and 5 squared. So that's 25 and 25, so it's 50. So 7.1. And again, you will get that. You just type it in the calculator. Okay, and then now let's do CA. Okay, I'm going to do CA using the distance formula just so I can demonstrate, okay? So I'm going to label my points here. A will be x1 and y1. C will be x2 and y2. All right, so let's plug into the distance formula. X2 minus X1 squared plus Y2 minus Y1 squared. So this 6 minus -1 is 7. 7 squared is 49. 1 minus 0 is 1. And 1 squared is 1. So 49 plus 1 is 50. Square root of 50 is also 7.1. Okay, so what kind of shape is it? It's a rectangle. And why is it a rectangle?
All sides are straight.
Because the diagonals are congruent. So now, do you see how it says we have to write an explanation, right? Okay, let's practice talking through an explanation. What was the very first thing we did? Yeah, we found the lengths of the 4 sides, yes? What did we determine from that, guys? Both pairs of opposite sides were congruent, right? Okay, so I calculated the lengths of the 4 sides and I saw that both pairs of opposite sides were congruent. This told me I could have either a what? Parallelogram or a rectangle, right? Then I calculated the diagonals. I saw that the diagonals were equal, which told me I have a rectangle. So see how we worded that nicely? Okay? So we're going to say rectangle. And the reasons were both pair of opposite sides were congruent. And our diagonals were equal. So yes, you'll have to give a nice little explanation, okay? So this right here, what I've written down, that's the Cliff Notes. You would make it nice and, presentable, yes? Not too bad, right? That's the longest problem on the test, okay? The longest problem. Y'all ready? Okay. So now let's go on to problem 11. So this is on the back of the paper for you guys. Okay, number 11. It says M is the midpoint of segment CF for the points C and F, okay? And then we need to find MF. So this is telling us we need to find the length of MF, okay? Gotta find the length of that. So it says hint, find the midpoint first and then find the distance using the distance formula. So step 1, what did they tell us to do? Find the midpoint. So let's do that, midpoint, and it's called M. Remember, add the x's, so 6 plus 10, divide by 2, and then do the y's, so 7 plus 9, divide by 2. Now remember, don't type that in your calculator, right? We just type the fraction for the x's and the fraction for the y's. So what's 6 plus 10? Divide by 2, so it's 8. And then 9 plus 7, 16 as well, divide by 2, so 8. So the midpoint is at 8, 8. And then now they ask us for the length of MF. So we have to use the distance. Yep. And does it matter, like M and F, does it matter which one is 0.1 and 0.2? No. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Just type into your distance formula. So 10 minus 8 squared plus, now I'm doing the y's, 9 minus 8 squared. Okay, and what do we get? Yep, 2.2. Everybody get that? Okay, good. Not bad. All right, last two, y'all. Everybody got that down?
Say it's the last.
Okay.
Well, number
Well, I'm doing 13 and 15. I'm not doing 14. Yeah. Okay, so 13, y'all. 13, 14, they're asking us to find the midpoint on this line. Everybody, I'm going to show you another way to do the midpoint on the graph that involves counting, okay? So if you don't want to use the midpoint formula and you have a graph, you can count. Now, does that mean you cannot use the midpoint formula in here? No. You can get the points for Q and P, add the x's divided by 2, add the y's divided by 2, yes? But if you like to count and that's faster, do it this way. We're going to use that whole triangle thing, okay? So from Q to P, I've got to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? I go down 8. And then from going over, I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I go over 6. We got the midpoint. How far along the segment is it? What does midpoint mean? It's in the middle. So it's halfway. Okay, so you're going to go half as much in each direction. So, yeah, I'm going to go down 4, over 3. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1, 2, 3. And that's where I land. So what's the coordinates of that spot? -1, -2. Perfect. And if you use the midpoint formula, you will get the same thing. Okay? All right. Last problem together. Number 15. Okay. It says the Frostburg Truth Bus travels from Frostburg Mall through the city center to Sojourner Truth Park. The mall is 5 miles east and 4 miles north of the city center. Truth Park is 3 miles west and 5 miles south of the city center. How far is it from Truth Park to the mall to the nearest 1/10 of a mile? Okay, so remember how we had to convert those directions into ordered pairs, right? Okay, north is your positive y, east is your positive x, south is negative y, and the west is the negative x, right? So, the mall, okay? I'm going to say M for mall. It's 5 miles east and 4 miles north. So what's that going to be? Yeah, 5, 4, because east and north are both positive. And then the park, I'm going to use P for park. It is 3 miles west and 5 miles south. So what's that going to mean? Yep, -3, -5, perfect. And then now, how do you find how far apart two things are? You use the distance formula. So we just plug in. Okay, and does it matter in this case which one is x1, y1, and which one's x2? No. So take your pick. So I'm going to call the mall as 0.1 and the park as 0.2. So I'm going to do x2, so -3 minus x1, which is 5. That gets squared. And then y2 is -5 minus y1, which is 4. And that gets squared. And now we want it to the nearest 10th. Nearest 10th. So when you type it in, you get 12.04, yes? Okay. And so that 4 is not going to make the 0 bump up, right? So as y'all said, just 12. Or you can even put 12.0 if that makes you happy. Okay? So easy, y'all, right? Yes. And again, like I said, this review, very much like the test. So if you can do this, you can do the test. All right, good job, y'all.